And the smart companies out there, those are the ones that really have the opportunity to scale because they've figured out the channel really is the secret ingredient. So that's kind of my quick perspective.
The Ascent. Let's go.
Rich, it is great to see you. We have survived the blizzard of 2026.
It's a snowpocalypse out there, but we've survived.
We have indeed. And unfortunately, because of that, we weren't able to get together for this recording of the next episode of the Ascent together. But I do think everyone will be pleased with the content that we're delivering today, based upon an amazing conversation that you had with Craig Patterson of Exabeam and Badri Varadarajan of HitWit, who's a great partner of us at Mountain Branch Consulting. So I'd love to hear a bit from you before we dive into that interview around what you learned.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opportunity to meet with two legends in the industry, one who's led and shaped an ecosystem for a number of years, 5-time CRN recognized channel chief in Craig, and then with Badri, who's building that Georgia Tech background that you share, his doctorate work in learning and education into a new and agentic future for how we're empowering enablement platforms within enterprise contexts for the future. All AI enabled, all ecosystem aware, so couldn't be more excited for the conversation.
Yeah, and obviously this is a shared passion area for us, this notion of AI-driven partner enablement. You know, enablement systems and processes are just ripe for change and transformation, leveraging the power of AI. We've been in organizations for a long period of time where you basically had these systems built around static content, these content warehouses, these random acts of enablement with boot camps and webinars and training and, online certification tests. And, with the emergence of AI, there's an opportunity to do something radically different.
I completely agree. And what you'll see in the conversation is Craig identifying the opportunity of taking enablement from where it's been at the, at the back of the OpEx train to really the forefront of innovation and how he's trying to drive change and transformation through the organization. And in Badri, what you see is a thought leader that's tackling this construct of, from any individual partner's point of view, the challenge of navigating literally dozens of vendors and the enablement that you get from all of those into a just-in-time, cohesive enablement that helps move a deal forward at the moment that you need it, which is incredible.
Awesome, and it hits on a lot of themes that we've talked about. This many-to-many structure for ecosystem growth in the future, change the game from this one-to-many construct from proprietary systems, and so the vision that these two set is amazing. So we're going to hear a lot about Exabeam's Sherpa tool that was recently announced. So that's super exciting, and that's powered by HitWit's proprietary hyper-index architecture, which Badri is super passionate about. So excited to get into it. Rich, you did an amazing job as a host. So let's hear from Craig and Badri.
Let's do it.
Welcome to The Ascent, where we focus on the go-to-market climb, not just on the illusion of the peak. I'm your host, Rich Steves from Mountain Branch Consulting, and we're here to pull back the curtain on what it actually takes to scale a partner ecosystem and drive hypergrowth in the age of AI. Whether you're a founder, a channel leader, or a go-to-market strategist, this show is about the grit, the pivots, and the real-world frameworks required to reach the next level. And I could not be prouder of the guests that we have today that know something about grit, tenacity, and about that kind of climb. Joined first and foremost by Craig Patterson, an absolute legend in the partner ecosystem community. Craig is globally recognized as a channel and go-to-market executive with over 2 decades of experience building billion-dollar revenue engines across cybersecurity and enterprise technology. As global channel chief at Exabeam, Craig leads the company's worldwide partner strategy, driving growth through operational discipline and a relentless focus on partner success. I don't want to, dive too quickly into the changes that you introduced in 2025 and some of the key elements that you've built into 2026. But I would be remiss, Craig, if I didn't, shout out at the beginning that you were also a 5-time CRN recognized channel chief and one of the most influential in the market. So, Craig, thank you and welcome.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me on. Really excited. This is going to be a great conversation. Very passionate about channel, very passionate about, giving back in the community. So thank you for having me on.
We're really excited to have you on, and equally excited to have my friend Badri Varadarajan join us here, CEO and founder of HitWit. Badri is a legend when it comes to ecosystem rev tech, go-to-market transformation, and is a proud doctorate of the Georgia Institute of Technology, where a lot of the focus, the discipline, the background, and the educational mindset is brought to what he's developed at HitWit. Badri, welcome.
Great to be here, and I'm actually excited to learn a lot about channels. I learn from Craig every day when I talk to him, and I learn from you as well, Richard. So great to be having this conversation. I'm new to the channel, so this just looks like coffee.
Amazing, amazing. Well, gentlemen, we'll dive right into it. So I think maybe just to frame the context, and especially for our audience, Craig, I'll start, with you. I mentioned that CRN, most influential channel chief recognition over the last 5 years. Takes a lot to earn that, takes a lot to sustain that in the market. Tell me, what does that mean about for you personally, but also what does that represent for Exabeam and the investment that you're making into your partner ecosystem?
Yeah, no, I love the question. The channel is something I'm very, very passionate about. It's something I've been very focused on for the last 2 decades of my life. I live a very disciplined, focused life. I get up in the morning, I have my coffee, and then I get very focused on driving, good channel outcomes. So when you think about like the channel itself, I'm very excited with where the market is headed. You think about where I started, 2 decades ago, the channel was kind of a nice to have. They're really focused more in the transactional space, driving, pretty basic fundamentals in terms of, outcomes for enterprise clients. And now where it's at today, it's unbelievable. You look at the distribution of tech services and cybersecurity, and Richard, it's exciting, my man, because 90% of all cybersecurity in the world flows through channel distribution.
That's right.
So, you look at that gets you excited because that the channel is the path to scale. And, when you think about the challenges that customers go through, the environment's very complex. It gets more complex by the minute, by the day, especially with all the emergence of AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally impossible for these enterprise clients to figure all this stuff out.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty and the value of channel is it becomes this unbiased, resource for customers to really guide and navigate them on how to solve all the problems they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So, I'm excited about the market has embraced it, and then the smart companies out there, those are the ones that really have the opportunity to scale because they've figured out that channel really is the secret ingredient. So that's kind of my quick perspective.
I love it. I love it. You're preaching to the converted here on this audience, but that's definitely a message that we like to evangelize as well. Badri, shifting to you, I think this has been one of those pretty incredible years. It feels like we're talking about years and maybe 3-month cycles right now with the innovation that we're seeing in AI, but especially on AI that's focused on the partners, the ecosystem, and scale. Give me a sense of, we've been through a number of these waves, and especially in the partner enablement space over the last couple of decades, but this one feels different. Give me a sense of what this moment means and how HitWit is perfectly poised to address what those challenges are.
Great point. And you're right, this moment does feel different. And I think it feels different for maybe one fundamental reason. If you think of what channels have traditionally been about, there's been a lot about relationships and less about systems. And when people like Craig were sort of thinking about this, as he said, the innovative companies are thinking about, can we apply systems insights into this? What was not possible was to do that at scale. if you had a great channel account manager, their capacity is bounded, right? You can't put them in every single conversation. You can't put them in conversations when you're not in the room. The partner has a great relationship with the customer. You would like to influence that deal, but you can't, because you can't put your best channel account manager everywhere. Turns out with AI now you can. So enablement failed historically, not because partners didn't learn, not because they didn't know their stuff, but because they couldn't apply the best expertise at the moment that margins were decided, when those decision points happened. And one of the key insights about AI is that it actually makes it possible to clone your experts and put them in places where you want them to be at the right time to say the right thing. And that's it. That really is why AI is going to transform what it means to do business through partnerships, because the business incentives are there. And now, basically, to put it another way, you folks who are in the channel already understood the promise of the channel. Us technologists had failed you. We had not given you systems that could do that before, and now we can.
I think you both touch on some important themes that we'll want to carry throughout. Craig, for you, obviously, with 90% of that opportunity and the value delivered to the end user customer through that connected and capable partner ecosystem, it's all about the partner. And Badri, to your point, I think having lived in those roles over the last 20 plus years, it was awfully difficult to translate the intelligence needed and required to really scale and enable partners in a myriad of vendor environments and solutions, just in time to influence at the most important point of a deal cycle. So definitely want to carry those through. But maybe I'll pull back a minute, because I'm getting excited and want to dive down the AI excitement trap. Craig, I want to spend some time talking a little bit about the important transformations that you've brought to your partner community through the Apex Partner Program heading into 2026. I know 2025 was a massive kind of influential year for you setting the foundation. What are some of the focus areas for you as you're heading into 2026, and how are you helping to steer that partner community?
Yeah, no, I love the question. And before I go there, you talked about something that was very important. Badri brought this up, and that's scale.
Yeah.
So we all, as channel chiefs, we all face the same problem. And then how do we scale these massive global ecosystems, right, in a cost-efficient manner, right? Because that's really the challenge we face. And you may not know this, but did you know like 60 to 70% of all channel organizations are 10 people or less? So you look at all these SaaS companies, all these cybersecurity companies that are out there, the resource pool is not that great. And so the smart people figure out ways to generate, new resources to increase their scale, because as we talked about, 90% of the market, again, global market, it's hard to create that scale without finding ways and solutions like my friend Badri, builds. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But going back to your question, in terms of, our Apex framework, and what we're trying to achieve, the beautiful thing with us is, being a Colorado company, we're kind of in this mountain theme. Mm-hmm. My program is all about Apex.
Love mountain themes.
I know, me too. Getting to the top of the summit, like that's what we're trying to achieve with Apex, is getting to that top of the summit. And I view 25 really as the year of the build, which is really mapping our route up that mountain. Yeah. What's the route we're going to take? How do we get prepared? How do we build that foundation so we can actually go execute that climb? And so, in 25, we spent a lot of time preparing ourselves, conditioning ourselves to go execute that climb. And what does that mean? Well, it means being intentional. You got to be intentional. You got to get feedback. And so we spent a lot of time really being laser focused on our partner community, understanding what was important to them, and more importantly, like what those friction points were, like what was really creating those problems within the channel go-to-market. And we did that through, broad surveys, getting all of our partners' feedback in a kind of a comprehensive manner. But then you also have very specific one-on-one interviews to really fine-tune and understand those common themes. And that really gives you a good perspective on, the things you need to do. And then you couple that by really understanding what's happening in the overall macro environment. There's certain channel trends from a modernization perspective that are happening out there. One being, simplification. Partners are fed up with all these mousetraps and gotchas and red
It's the
tape.
most talked about and hardest to deliver at the end of the day is how do you deliver that simplification?
Exactly. So it's like the simplification, partners really want programs built on value and enablement. So really figuring out ways to help them be better in life. And then the third is like they all want this path to profitability, because it's very difficult if you're a channel partner out there understanding how to drive to a certain level of margin, because these programs are not overly transparent. So really understanding the macro trends that are happening, balancing that with the overall feedback. And then the third piece, and this is really where people need to spend more time, is understanding the operating plan of their company. Us being a private equity backed company, there's certain requirements and certain outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And so the smart people spend the time to really understand what those goals are from an operating perspective. And then you take all these elements and you build a plan that drives to the right outcomes for the private equity group, solves those friction points, but then also positions you in the market to outmaneuver your competition because you're providing more value in a partner-centric environment. And so that was really the foundational work in 25 is really building out that plan.
I love that. And you touched on a really key word there, value. And I noticed a real pivot of the Apex program heading into 26 with a deep recognition of the value that your partners are bringing to their customer relationships, and that focus on demonstrated value and competency, really anchoring in the capabilities of that partner community. Many programs will focus on those traditional kind of revenue clips for the program tiers. You spent some time, and this will, Badri, we'll come to you here in a moment here, but Craig, tell me a bit more about that focus on the competency and certification structure that you brought to the partner.
No, I love this. I think this is a very important element. When you look at revenue generation, revenue is kind of a lagging indicator, really, when you think about it. Like, you want to focus on the leading indicators. And in my mind, enablement is one of those leading indicators. If I have more and more activity, more and more partners investing their time, energy, and effort, the thesis really is that is going to drive a favorable outcome in the long term for me, right? My thesis is if you're more active, you're going to be more interested, you're going to be more curious, you're going to drive more pipeline. And Richard, if we do this the right way, if they're educated, well, guess what happens? Now we're going to be converting at a higher percentage, which you think about my earlier statement about aligning to the operating plan. Well, let's figure out a plan to convert at a higher percentage. And so if I can increase my pipe and I can convert with speed and velocity, now we're talking, my man. So that really was the whole thesis around the enablement side is creating value for partners, creating the ability for them to become better in their craft, better in their domain. And that really was what we focused on with the enablement piece.
I love it. And there's so many interesting themes to pull through there. I love the focus on understanding the internal operating model and business drivers of what's important for your stakeholders, your executive team, and particularly that PE ownership focus. It's the same way that you're providing that discipline and understanding what motivates partners. It's got to be simple. They have to engage with you predictably in the market, and it's got to be profitable at the end of the day for them to drive those deep relationships with you. Start to pull this through and start to weave back that conversation around the AI-enabled ecosystem and some of those challenges, Craig, that you pointed out around the size and the level of investment in the FTEs and that traditional channel partner team are often constrained. Scale is something that we're always aspiring to. You've been able to do that through your partnership with Badri here through the introduction of Sherpa. So maybe frame for those that don't know Sherpa and the virtual CAM model, give me a sense of what it is, how it operates, and what was the real driver for you behind introducing it?
Yeah, no, this is something we're very excited about this year. We're putting a lot of attention, a lot of investment into, this particular strategy. And again, this ties back to the overall thesis around enablement. So the thesis again is, more interested, more educated, better outcomes. And we had to figure out a way to do it at scale. And so coming in here, I had an ecosystem of 3,000 partners globally. You know, I have a lot more than 10 people, but it's still a small but mighty team. There's no way physically possible for my team to support 3,000 partners. And then also you have to understand we're very global in nature. I mean, I've got partners, literally you name a country, I've got them there, which represents additional challenges in terms of like, how do we, localize language and collateral and training and all these things. And so, really the goal was to create a model that scales, and I'm a big believer in the way that life plays out to some degree. Like some things just happen for a reason. Badri and I got connected for a reason. And, it became a good conversation. It was the right timing, and he generated an amazing, platform that could help me scale. And so we kind of kicked things off. I ran through a lot of the problems I was looking to solve. And, one of the most collaborative engagements, one of the most flexible engagements. And we were able to operate with speed and urgency, and get to a really good place. We have an MVP, which has been launched. We have, partners that are actively using our new training and enablement platform online.
Amazing.
And it's growing. And so when you think about innovation, we're going to continue to invest in our own innovation. That's something we're very proud of on our own tech. And we're going to continue to invest in the innovation around Sherpa, which is that always on 24/7 cam.
Yep.
And, I was very specific in my keynote at SCO. And I'm like, listen, team, this is not a strategy to replace you. This is a strategy to make you better.
Yeah.
Because what I want to do is I want to take away all that noise. All the noise in terms of the stuff you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis that we can leverage Sherpa, right, to help us scale. And so, in terms of what Sherpa does, it's that 24/7 cam. You can ask it general questions, product positioning, value proposition, use cases. If you want to practice your pitch, you can practice your pitch. You can upload it. It'll tell you what you need to do to be better. And so the whole goal here is to make them a better Exabeam seller. And then in terms of where we go in the future, my vision here is like, I want to create more enablement around, helping channel partners become better sellers in general.
Yeah.
When you think about adding collateral and content around what is the right messaging to a CFO, what is the right messaging to a CEO or CRO, how do I position with them? That's where we're going to take this, along with another of other roadmap items. And I don't want to steal it all because
No. I think
here.
It's the heart and the why behind the introduction of the capabilities. So I think it's incredibly important to frame that. A few things there you touched on that I think are so important. The notion of how do you bring this out, not just to the partner team, but also to that direct sales team. That channel tax perceived of engaging, enabling, and working with a wide partner community. If you can take off that administrative tax and add velocity to that co-sell motion with a direct sales team, you're taking the shackles off and driving scale, in a fundamentally different way. And I think doing that in a way where you've also demonstrated the ability in taking these AI pilots and POCs that we had for the last couple of years and bringing it into production and demonstrating that it is ready for prime time, and the ability to bring it into live customer calls for co-pilot conversations is game changing, and really demonstrates leadership. Switching gears, because you said this, Craig, not to steal all the thunder from Badri here, but Badri, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about traditional challenges with enablement in the ecosystem. A lot of times, it's not just the challenge of one vendor working with a partner or a myriad of partners. It's the fact that partner themselves are working with, sometimes tens, dozens, often, up to 176. I know a North American partner has 176 strategic vendors that they work with on their line card. give me a sense of how HitWit is tackling that challenge and making it easy for the partner to best position the right opportunity at the right time.
Good question. I think at a fundamental level, I'd say stop thinking of AI as a tool. Think about it as AI as a capacity multiplier. Craig brought this up in his core speech as well. And in a way, so I used to think that there was some sort of a fundamental conflict between how partners think and how vendors think. Actually, what these engagements, particularly this collaboration with Craig has made me realize is actually that's not the case. There is, in the end, everybody wants the same outcome. They want increased revenue. Yeah, the revenue splits are different for partners, doesn't matter. To Craig's point, it traditionally used the thought of enablement as an activity checkbox, meaning, oh, I got into this program. I need to buy contract. I need to go get certified. What does certification mean? I need to do some activity. I do something for 2 hours and then I'll get a certificate. None of that translates to competence. And what you want is, ultimately, you want to close deals faster and you want to close bigger deals and you want to retain deals. I mean, increasingly, that's becoming a thing where deal registration is not just new deals, but expanding existing opportunities. And for all of those, everybody wants competent sellers, sales engineers of any given company's products at any given partner. And that's what AI enables you to do. But to do that, I'll also say this, to go back to Craig, that requires a lot of thoughtfulness on the part of the channel chief.
Yeah.
Our job as the tech vendors, our job is to give you great platforms, and those platforms need to be very flexible, to Craig's point, and to handle different kinds of products, to handle different kinds of features and workflows. But it requires a lot of thought on the part of the channel chief to break down their sales motion to say, this is what it takes me to close a deal. There are 20 steps in here. How can AI increase competence in every single step? And I see that in my conversations with him is when we're reviewing the Sherpa dashboard, he's like, yeah, fine, that's right. But show me where this outcome scaled. Show me not just that they got certifications, but can I see exactly why we think they're competent at that? And then so we sort of refine what it means. To his point about the demo, let's not make it an activity. Let's make it a thing where there is constant feedback and learning to increase competence overall. That's what we're trying to do here, is to scale competence through the entire ecosystem.
I love that, and what it reminds me is the ability of not making it that one time as I'm onboarding to a vendor or part of my annual certification check, but that what I think you've been able to do together is insert it into the natural flow of how that partner wants to engage with their customers and how they acquire and deliver confidently the knowledge of the solutions that they're trying to bring to bear. Badri, tell me a bit more, to give a live example of if I'm at that partner, maybe I'm working through a strategic distributor and I've got a multiple kind of vendors. How do we make it real for that partner seller who's getting ready to jump on that call in 15 minutes? What's the experience you're looking to deliver through the platform?
Got it. I'll actually cheat a little bit and go further back in that partner's journey.
Yeah.
As you said, a given partner, and we work with partners as well, they deal with tens, if not hundreds of vendors. Think about how you learned anything. It is physically not possible for you to take a certification in February and kill it on a sales pitch in August. It just is not possible. And traditionally, enablement has tried to make it achieve the impossible. And the only way partners have been able to do this is by allocating headcount. I think there is a stat that says, if you take distributors, for example, they have 10 personnel attached to every single vendor they support, which is somewhat ridiculous. I mean, that's why their margins are low. That's why they're struggling. What you'd want to do is to understand how the sale works. Like if I'm going to do something in February, all I need to do is to remember like 5 sentences about it. That's it. And then half an hour before a call, I get a brief that prepares me for that call that says, hey, here's what you're going to talk about. This is the product. This is what we know about the customer. And then on the call, you call an audible, right? So essentially, the agent joins your call, and it's discreet. It's just sitting on the side. But when the customer says something about, hey, here is my objection, it has learned not only from that call, but from every other call that Exabeam sellers have been on, whether they're at your
Game
company,
changer. This is the game-changing moment.
That's amazing.
right? And again, AI is not magic. It relies on the expertise of Craig's team to look at these calls and say, hey, no, this is not how I want to position Exabeam against somebody else. Why don't we say this? And then that goes into there is a feedback loop that gets set up where the experts in Craig's team teach the agent to lend their expertise to a partner seller, and that's all you need to do. And when it gets to a level where you do need that higher level of expertise, Craig's team is at hand. But they're spending their time on high quality things, right? They're not spending their time just sending the same old email to everybody. They're jumping in when the conversation is already elevated, and that scales, right?
I love that. I see Craig, you leaning in on that point about that major game changer. Tell me more about how this is changing the lives of that partner, the lives of your team, and just the ability to scale that effective and actionable knowledge.
Yeah, no, it could be one. We'll look back, and I think this will be one of the most transformational moments, in terms of our channel execution, because you think about what's happening in the market. Like if you're a cybersecurity partner out there today, it's so crowded. There's so many vendors, and to Badri's point, it's literally impossible to remember how to correctly position all those vendors with your customers, right? It's impossible. And, the complexity of these programs, again, there's all these mousetraps and there's all these, dead ends and trapdoors and all these things that make it very difficult. And so my vision is to create a program for partners that is very easy to maneuver, right? I want to outmaneuver my competition by providing value, providing resource. And if we do it the right way, we're going to enable them right through this brand new Sherpa platform. And so, we get partners integrated through Slack channels, through Teams integration. And now they have the ability very quickly to ask questions. So I think if you're integrated in Teams or Slack, I can easily ask a question real time, real fast. That gives me an advantage because I'm quicker and I'm easier. And if I'm quicker and easier, they're going to lean more to me, right? Because I'm a vendor that is easier for them to work with. Now, the whole notion of helping them on a call real time, that is the game-changing moment, because the problem these partners are all dealing with is the complexity of trying to understand how to position.
Yeah.
And so now they have a resource 24/7 that can join these calls, handle those objections. And as we see more and more common themes in these objections, we'll continue to make the AI better and better and better. We'll continue to understand more what's happening in the macro, environments, what's driving these decision makers to make these decisions. We have all these CISO podcasts that we do in our company. Well, guess what? We can use those to train what's actually happening in the market. And so, I think it's really going to be a transformational moment that's literally going to be the key ingredient to help us achieve global scale.
I love that. I think it's this watershed moment where we'll stop worrying less about the active creation of enablement, and we're going to be focused on building enriched, deep knowledge within organizations. The platform is there to be able to scale it effectively. Now it's about enriching that data set, making it contextual, and making it actionable at that moment for.
Yeah. And the funny thing too, my man, like if you go out and you were to say, okay, I'm going to go interview 100 companies right now, and you're going to say, what is your AI strategy? But be specific.
Yeah.
But be specific. They're all going to stumble and they're going to say, oh, well, ChatGPT this, and they're just really at the basic foundation of AI.
We're in those conversations and they are working to articulate what that strategy is. I agree. But
the smart companies understand that operating plan, and they're building AI to help, accelerate growth, to achieve higher, better outcomes around what their company's trying to achieve. And that's really what we're doing here with Sherpa.
I think it's a level of innovation and a leadership position that I think a lot are going to look to through this year and is really going to help set a standard. So move the conversation to maybe some of the closing thoughts here in a moment. You know, Badri, maybe I'll toss it to you first. As you're working across channel ecosystems, partner teams, and building out the next great success with HitWit, maybe some predictions, Badri, from you on where you see change and adoption, what that starts to look like throughout 2026 and beyond.
I think 2026 is the year we're going to start seeing systems at scale. I'll sort of go back to systems. So far, we've had hero experiments, right? Somebody who's very tech forward goes and says, hey, look, I could create this presentation by myself without going to a designer or something like that. To what Craig just said, stop focusing on just activity that you can do. Start focusing on how your system delivers at scale, and that is going to happen. For sure.
I see it. I think the movement from experimentation and point solutions to systems and platforms at scale, I think that's the year that we see. Craig, I'd love to take a moment and really kind of reflect on your journey to where you've been. Again, that 5-time recognized CRN Channel Chief Award. There are a lot of folks that watch these webcasts who are earlier career professionals who are building the fundamentals of their partner journey in terms of their professional career steps. As you're guiding and shaping your team, but also as you guide and mentor others in the market, what's your advice to those folks that are building and developing their partner careers in 2026 and beyond? Oh, Craig, for you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for the question. You know, for me, there's something that's always been very important to me. Really a couple things. Number one, you always have to be smart about building your brand, right? And so making sure you're taking time to really build a credible brand for yourself in the marketplace. You know, and of course you want to be a thought leader, you want to be an expert in your particular domain. But you have to do it with some level of intention. And so I always talk to people that I'm mentoring to say, you know, really understand the domain you want to be successful in, and find all those key people, right, that are thought leaders in that space, and go follow them. Go follow them and see what they're doing. You know, learn from the things they're driving. Learn from the outcomes they're looking to achieve. You know, every single day you're gonna learn something from those people. And so, you know, make the time to understand the thought leaders, and then start to incorporate that into your own thought leadership brand. I think that's very, very key in the market. And a lot of people don't take the time to do that. But the one thing, my friend, that really, like if you say, Craig, what's been the secret ingredient to your success over the years? It's me building a culture that people want to be a part of. Yeah. Not only want to be a part of, they fight to be a part of. Yeah. And so like that's been the most critical thing for my entire career. I've had some amazing people in my career that I've had an opportunity to work alongside of, people that you know, people like Lisa Miller. And I've always really tried to embrace that in my career. And so, you know, that's something that's been very important to me. And I think you can kind of validate that when you see the people that want to follow you in the second tour or the third tour. You know, and I've got people that are on their third tour of duty with me right now here at Exabeam. And so I think it's like really understanding culture, you know, and really understanding how to work with your teams, how to help them in their career, how to help them get more exposure, and how to really help them break through to those next levels. And my opinion is, like, if you get the culture right, performance always follows. It always follows every single time. And that's really my advice. Build your brand, focus on culture. Good things happen to good people.
I love it. Sign me up. I'd love to be a part of a culture like that. Couldn't agree more. I always describe it as build your squad as well, raise your people up, invest in them along the way, and good things happen for everybody. So deep believer in that. Maybe, gentlemen, I'll ask one last question. You know, in terms of a call to action for the partner community as you see it out there today. So, Badri, if you've got that one call to action as you look in 2026 and kind of beyond, what kind of call to action are you shaping for the partner community?
scale judgment without necessarily scaling headcount. That's what you want.
I like that. I'm going to write that one down. And Craig, for you.
It's go time. So 2025 was the build. 26 is all about execution. So the foundation's laid here at Exabeam. It's go time for us. Like, we are ready to rock. And so I ask all those partners out there, get interested, get curious, have conversations with Exabeam. And I think you'll really be pleased, with the program we've built, the tools we have to help you be better in life and, increase your acumen in your domain. And I think you really love the new Sherpa tool.
I love it. You've set the destination point with that apex. You've got the Sherpas helping your partners along that journey along the way. Here at Mountain Branch Consulting, we are all about that journey and the climb as well. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, for sharing your insights and being so generous with your time and recommendations as well. With that, everyone, that's our close for the Ascent. We'll look forward to joining you in a new conversation very, very soon. Thanks all.
Thanks all. Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
Well, Rich, that was absolutely amazing. Super insightful. Love the conversation. Love the energy. Craig is a fascinating guy, and so is Badri, of course, is a great partner of ours. And it was just an amazing conversation. I loved what Craig really set the stage with, where revenue is not a leading indicator. It's really a lagging indicator, and setting up activities such as enablement as really the front end of how you drive a growth engine as a partner-led ecosystem. Would love your thoughts on that.
I completely agree. Fascinated in the conversation. I mean, not for nothing, Craig's the kind of guy you want leading an organization, and I would see as a future revenue leader of any organization. With that said, I think you're quite right of saying, like, that insight of how you influence and how the partner ecosystem can help better engage, enable, and grow that opportunity well before the transaction ever happens. And his laser focus on that really is what distinguished him in that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And what they're doing with the Apex program is great. I love the mountain theme as well. We share some
mountain theme. Yep.
Which is great to see. And I think, going back to the enablement topic, we know that when channel organizations mature their enablement systems, they see an outsized growth in revenue. Like, it's just a huge impact on performance. And so the companies that are really investing in that space see 2 to 3 times greater revenue growth through channel, like super impactful. And what they're doing around Sherpa, powered by HitWit, is just really amazing. And I love this idea of how you can transform that enablement motion from static content to a live coach. Just an amazing capability.
Yeah, I think the industry is going to take note. I think this is innovative capability. It's going to be the benchmark as we go forward. The traditional kind of LMS workflow of certifications and specializations served us well to this point. Being able to provide that just-in-time coaching at the right moment to influence that deal and the outcome, that's what the modern, AI-enabled platform is going to look like for the future. So super pumped for Exabeam, for HitWit, and the model that it's setting for the industry.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Craig hit on another point where this is not about replacing people. I think, we've talked about this at length before, where everyone hears AI and the capability that's emerging and think, okay, my job is under threat. This is much more about the notion of providing an always-on intelligence layer to really enable effective channel account managers and people that are really working with partners to make them so much more effective. And so I think that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's augmentation over replacement. It's how do you become, 10x in terms of impact, effectiveness of organization? How are we scaling more effectively? And how can those partner leaders who are frankly dealing with very constrained budgets think about providing the right level of resource to scale their organizations effectively? So yeah, totally admire what they've been building.
Yeah, and then Badri hit on the same point where we need to stop thinking about AI as a tool or a human replacement and think about it as a multiplier, because it's this massive influence on how much work people could do in a given amount of time. And again, this area of enablement, we know it's kind of under threat. We know from past experience that enablement, it's not really viewed super highly within organizations because of the notion that it's passive, really content warehousing, and the capability for AI to really transform how enablement runs, particularly in the partner space, is massively impactful. So I love that. I also love this idea that, the aha moment is that, the AI is just in time and provides you that coaching, not based upon the conversation you're having, but the hundreds or if not thousands of conversations, CAMs, reps, the entire body of knowledge, a corpus with an enterprise can be delivered in real time, just in time, as you're having a conversation with a partner or customer. Just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, this is going to take enablement from the end of the trough to the tip of the spear is the way that I see it. It's trying to get that OpEx investment and spending. And it's been challenging because it's been a repackaging exercise, especially in the partner ecosystem. We're partnerizing content, transitioning it from a direct sales motion to a partner ecosystem, and that's never quite worked. If we can do it contextually aware, just in time, and support that seller at that partner, that's game changing.
Awesome. And then I'd just love to get your take. What was the one or two ahas that you took away, those shining moments that really sat with you as, hey, this is something that's really, really cool. Would love that insight from you.
Yeah, beyond the pure potential on the platform and the thought leadership and innovation from Badri and HitWit, I will tell you, I walked away from that conversation deeply humbled by the leadership skill and capability of Craig. I think you and I spend a lot of time with some incredible leaders across the industry. I think when you meet people who themselves are force multipliers within their organizations, and it's about the team, that's the kind of construct that all of us want to get behind. So can't wait for the next conversation.
Yeah, I agreed. I think what you and Craig highlighted was that there's a common pitfall in channel leadership, that the focus is entirely on the peak, right? That revenue. And what we've already said is it's not really about the peak, it's about the climb, the ascent, which is a great time to remind people to like, subscribe, follow along as we continue this journey.
Love it. Excited for what we've got ahead. Some great conversations that we're teeing up, and really excited for all of you to join us.
All right. Well, Rich, great to see you again. Great to see everyone else out there, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah. Turn it up. We don't wait. We don't wait. We elevate. Climbing up mountains that stand in my way. From separate paths to the breakthrough moment. This is that Ascent, we own it. No shortcuts, just momentum. From the ground up, full extension. Eyes forward, no decision. Climb steady, that's the lesson. The Ascent, let's go.